US peace plan does not demand Russian withdrawal from Donbas. Washington's latest peace proposal do not call on Russia to pull its troops from Donetsk and Luhansk to establish a demilitarized zone, according to the Financial Times. A Ukrainian official familiar with the most recent draft confirmed the plan stops short of demanding that Russian forces leave areas assigned as the eastern border of the proposed demilitarized zone. Instead, the US is pressing Kyiv to withdraw its own troops from parts of Donetsk. Originally, President Trump's peace plan suggested creating a neutral buffer zone after Ukrainian forces pulled back from Donbas. Ukrainian negotiators say the current US blueprint envisions a zone similar to one separating North and South Korea for more than 70 years. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy sees a demilitarized zone as a potential freeze, a short-term pause that could give Moscow a chance to regroup before launching a new offensive. Trump urged Zelenskyy to be realistic on elections. Speaking at a White House discussion, US President Donald Trump said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy needs to be realistic about holding elections. Trump also claimed that 82% of Ukrainians support a deal to end the war, though he did not cite a source for the statistic.
I think he has to be realistic, and I do wonder about, how long is it going to be till they have an election. It's democracy. It's a long time. They haven't had an election in a long time. It's losing a lot of people. And it's possible that the people, if you look at the polls, I will say 82%, there was a poll that came out, 82% of the people are demanding a settlement be made, Ukrainian people. They want to see a settlement be made. I understand that. They're losing thousands and thousands of people a week. They want to see it ended.
Donald Trump said he was not casting a shadow, but pointed to a long history of corruption and added that, in his view, it's time to end the war. He offered no source for his claim that 82% of Ukrainians supposedly support a deal. According to the Kyiv International Institute of Sociology, 54% of Ukrainians are firmly against it, while a rating group survey shows 75% would support a ceasefire, only with international security guarantees. Trump also commented on his talks with European leaders about Ukraine, describing them as fairly tough.
The leaders of France, we spoke to, Germany, and UK, all very good leaders, very good friends of mine, and we discussed Ukraine in pretty strong words. And we'll see what happens. I mean, we're waiting to hear answers before we progress. We're not spending any money in Ukraine. We're selling basically missiles and everything else to NATO.
According to Trump, European leaders wanted to hold new talks this weekend, including a US delegation. He said Washington will decide on its participation only after Europe submits more detailed plans. Meanwhile, the US administration has in recent weeks sent European partners a series of documents outlining plans for Ukraine's reconstruction and Russia's reintegration into the global economy, reports the Wall Street Journal.
The U.S. blueprint has been spelled out in appendices to current peace proposals that aren't public, but were described to the Wall Street Journal by U.S. and European officials. The documents detail plans for U.S. financial firms and other businesses to tap roughly $200 billion of frozen Russian assets for projects in Ukraine, including a massive new data center to be powered by a nuclear plant currently occupied by Russian troops.
Another document lays out the US vision for bringing Russia's economy back from the cold, involving American companies in strategic sectors, from rare earth mining to Arctic oil extractions, as well as supporting Russian energy exports to Europe and other countries. According to the report, some European officials have expressed skepticism about the documents. Belgium may sue the EU over reparation loan for Ukraine. Belgian Prime Minister Bart De Wever said he might take legal actions if the European Commission approves a plan to use frozen Russian assets that is unacceptable to his country. He made the comments to VRT. Belgian Prime Minister Bart De Wever said the country is continuing talks with the European Commission to ensure that the plan to provide Ukraine with a loan using frozen Russian assets meets rational, reasonable and fair standards. He added that the current task is to revise the proposal from European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. The Belgian Prime Minister also warned that if negotiations fail, legal action is possible, noting that even the Euroclear depository, which holds the frozen Russian assets, could go to the EU court.
Nothing can be ruled out. If a decision is made that, in my opinion, contradicts the law and therefore is pointless and creates significant risks for this country, nothing can be ruled out.
According to Politico, the European Union is considering a tougher approach toward Belgium, which opposes the idea of a reparation loan to Ukraine using frozen Russian assets. Officials reportedly do not rule out ignoring the Belgian government led by Prime Minister Bart De Wever. According to journalists, Belgian Prime Minister Bart De Wever has resisted the plan to finance a loan to Ukraine using frozen Russian assets, most of which are held in Belgium. So EU diplomats are now devising strategies to persuade him to support the idea. De Wever fears Belgium could face difficulties if the funds have to be repaid and is requesting additional security guarantees. The country has submitted a list of amendments to the European Commission's proposal to ensure it would not be forced to pay Russia on its own if sanctions are lifted. Diplomats say that despite concerns that EU leaders might not reach an agreement on the loan at the December summit, there is still hope for compromise. Ambassadors will review Belgium's demands line by line, identifying key issues and look for ways to resolve them. However, a week before the leaders' meeting, the EU's tone toward Belgium is becoming firmer. If De Wever continues to block the plan, he risks being isolated and ignored, similar to Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, journalists report. EU officials are also expected to ignore Belgium's concerns over EU long-term budget for 2028-2034, creating a major challenge for the Belgian government. Putin likely planning secret mobilization. Russian dictator Vladimir Putin is reportedly preparing to offset near the exhaustion of volunteers by secretly mobilizing elements of Russia's strategic reserve, according to a new report from the Institute for the Study of War. Analysts doubt that Putin will launch a large-scale mobilization. Instead, he is likely to recruit reservists on an ongoing basis. On December 8th, Putin signed a decree allowing the draft on unspecified number of Russian reservists who will undergo mandatory military training in 2026. This marks a shift away from the volunteer recruitment approach which the Kremlin had used to avoid highly unpopular decisions about conscripting reservists.
Russia retains a higher readiness human mobilization reserve, an active reserve of Russian citizens who sign a contract with the Russian Ministry of Defense, MOD, on a voluntary basis to serve in the reserve while remaining civilians except when called up. Russia also maintains an inactive reserve, also known as the Human Mobilization Resource, or ZAPAS in Russian, which includes Russian men as old as 65 to 70 years old in some circumstances who are not actively affiliated with the Russian armed forces.
In October 2025, analysts from the Institute for the Study of War reported that the Kremlin is planning a partial mobilization without officially declaring war or mandatory conscription. Experts also note that Russia's resources are not unlimited, as Putin claims, and the dictator now faces difficult decisions about maintaining the combat readiness of Russian forces. That's all for now. Thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave your comments below.